Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Thomas Hearns. Legends, whose four-way rivalry defined one of the greatest eras in boxing history. Relive their decade of dominance in a new Showtime sports documentary, The Kings, a 4-part series now streaming on Showtime.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Apatra, joined by my good buddy, Haaris and you know what that means. It's Sunday, June 6th. We're going to give you guys some winning plays. 2 games on the card, some wonderful playoffs. We got my Mavericks playing today. We have the new start of a new series with the Hawks and the Sixers. We got a lot of good stuff to go on, but Haaris, my good friend, how are you?
I can't complain. So bad. Sunday, where it's not a one-game slate, where we get to enjoy at least one Game 7 out of it, is always a good day for hoops. So excited to be able to look forward to that. But otherwise, these playoffs has just been pretty fun all the way through. The Denver-Portland series is probably my favorite, and this is now where I'm hoping the Mavs can pull it through. But let's see what happens.
Well, I'm glad you're on my side, man. You picked the right side. You picked the lights, the good side, not the bad side. So, of course, I would love to see my Mavericks win this and just close it out tonight. I'm going to be watching it. I'm really excited, and you couldn't have said it any better. This has been a fantastic postseason thus far. Yes, we don't have LeBron in it anymore. We're not watching Curry, but this is wide open basketball, man. And I never like to see injuries, but this injury to James Harden, this hamstring injury. This could even some playing field. This could give us better basketball for this, because me personally, I thought the Nets would just run away with it once the Lakers were out of it. But this could change some things, man. So I'm excited to see what comes about it. I'm excited to see these games tonight. And what I'm really excited about, and big kudos, I'm going to take a quick second before we jump into anything. I put a little Twitter message out, and I'm sure most of our followers and everybody saw it, but not everybody follows me on Twitter. I can't be have an ego the size of a mango and think that. Some people get their information from our show as well. But you probably might have heard me not be on a couple podcasts recently, and that's simply because I am losing my mind behind the scenes over here. I'm planning a large scale move where I'm moving. Me and my significant other are moving everything that we own down to Texas, 3,000 miles away. So I'm going to be pretty busy over the next few weeks, where they're going to see me probably taking a couple shows off, and I might not be getting to your Twitter questions and stuff like that very quickly, and I do apologize, but I just wanted to be absolutely transparent with everybody. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going crazy trying to figure all this stuff out back here. And big shout out to a few of our listeners and Twitter followers out there giving me recommendations. I could not ask for anything more, Haaris. I mean, I'm getting food spot recommendations when I go down there. I'm talking 30 spots. I'm talking nice little scenic routes, hiking trail, you name it. And if you're one of those people that knows anything about Texas, I had absolutely nothing. Hit me with it. I need it all. Give me all the information, good, bad, everything, because I have no idea what I'm getting into, and I'm leaving in about a month. So find me on Twitter. Hit me up. Let me know what you guys think. Anything that might be able to be useful information, I will take. But that's enough of me, Harris. That's enough of me. We're going to talk about someone a little bit better than me right now, and it's our sponsor. It's MyBookie, guys. Head over there, mybookie.ag. Absolutely fantastic bookie site. The only bookie site I use. The only one I give my stamp of approval for. I mean, you guys head over there, use that promo code HoopBall. They'll match your deposit 50% up to $1,000. That's free money to play with. Whether you want to do it in the NBA action, some MLB, head over their fully fledged casino platform. However you want to do it, you could do it with MyBookie with that promo code HoopBall over at mybookie.ag. And guys, you heard us talk about Manscaped. Check them out, guys. The products are fantastic. You probably see our cohort, Devin Ellington, over there on the Hoopball Gaming side, just shaving an absolutely phenomenal handlebar mustache, like one that Hulk Hogan himself would have been proud of. I couldn't grow that if I tried, but I knew if I did, I'd have the tools for it regardless. I mean, they give you everything you need in that perfect package kit, from the Lawnmower 4.0 to the ear, hair, and nose trimmer. You get the body wash. You get everything: conditioner, toner, travel kit, T-shirt, boxers. They give you everything. It's the perfect travel kit. That's what I use it for. So, guys, head over to Manscaped. Use that promo code HoopBall20. Get 20% off your first purchase and free shipping. So, guys, Hoop Ball 20 over at Manscaped. All right, my good friend. We'll start it off. We have the Atlanta Hawks traveling to Philly, taking on the Sixers. Sixers favored by 4 in this one, 220.5 game total. As far as the injury report for the Hawks, Chris Dunn, Brandon Goodwin, Cam Reddish all rolled out. DeAndre Hunter is questionable, dealing with that right knee soreness. He was dealing with that before Game 5, ended up playing 34 minutes through it. And for the Sixers, Embiid, questionable, dealing with that meniscus tear. It's going to be a tough road for Embiid. He's a gamer. He's been slightly going through practices. Are these full contact? Probably not, but they're seeing exactly what this guy can do, what he can handle, because there's no secret. This team needs Embiid out there. But I'll pass it over to you. We'll start off with this Hawks team. Harris, let me know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, as far as both the Atlanta Hawks and Philadelphia 76ers are concerned, you get a nice little rest after a pretty dominating 5-game series for them. But kind of the downside of what's happened with how well the Hawks have played is that most of their prices have gone up, especially for someone like Trae Young, who, at 9,200 now, was pretty consistent throughout. Didn't have a single game under 41. It would DK points throughout, 56, 41, 44. It's just been one of those where if you're looking for a guy who's got a rock solid floor, has always got the upside, it's always the guy to be able to go ahead and get itself started with. At 9,200, he's probably pretty fairly priced. And for Philadelphia, who, as we all know, incredibly suffocating defense, you're always going to have to deal with Ben Simmons on the perimeter. Got a number of guys to help out there. So, Trae Young might be a spot where it's a little bit difficult to be able to see him hit that value for his 9,200. Has had 2 games against the Philadelphia 76ers, about 42 DK points in that time. Did shoot pretty well, but it kind of just comes down to how well the rest of the guys can be around him to help boost up those assist totals, because he hasn't had really high dime games up against the Philadelphia 76ers themselves. So that kind of has me looking a little over to the side over here, where John Collins is one guy that hasn't really had that opportunity yet to be able to really shine in the playoffs as of yet, sitting at about 12 points a game. And frankly, he's better than that. And he's the kind of guy who needs to get his offense going if the Hawks are looking to make any sort of a deep run. His price has kind of been depressed throughout the series, started at about 6,500, 6,400, and dropped all the way down to 59, where, to me, that's a pretty good spot to be able to see him potentially get himself going offensively, get his value back in check, and also in a game where you spoke about Embiid being out most likely, or more than that, restricted. I don't see him playing a full allotment of minutes, which means he's going to get a lot more opportunities to go up against Dwight Howard. They like starting Ben Simmons at center now, as they have in the last games. It's been kind of a weird little rotation for them, but just out of all these guys who are pretty fairly priced out there, and as you said, DeAndre Hunter is pretty questionable. Otherwise, I like him for 44. I actually really like John Collins tonight.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Thomas Hearns. Legends, whose 4-way rivalry defined one of the greatest eras in boxing history. Relive their decade of dominance in a new Showtime sports documentary, The Kings, a 4-part series now streaming on Showtime.
Nobody builds 5G like Verizon builds 5G, because we're the engineers who built the most reliable network in America. And the more you do with 5G, the more building it right matters. The more your network matters. The more Verizon engineers going the extra mile matters. It's us pushing us. It's Verizon versus Verizon. 5G built right from America's most reliable network. Most reliable based on rankings from RootMetrics second half 2020 U.S. report of 3 mobile networks. Results may vary. Award is not an endorsement.
I can't argue with the price tag with John Collins. We, like you said, you touched on it. He's definitely better than this. We definitely know that he's better than this. We've seen bigger games from him. He's almost just been taking a passive approach to a lot of different things in this series, or not this series, in this playoffs. And you can't really fault him when Trae Young's been balling out the way that he has, and this team has been playing the way that they have. As far as Trae Young, 9,200, I don't love it. I don't hate it. He's contrarian to me. He's kind of like that GPP pivot if I wanted to look anywhere. I like the price tag, but he's also, he's less expensive than Kawhi, $200 more than Paul George. We'll get to some of the other guys that are a little cheaper than him as well. So I don't see myself falling on him all that much, but I will be a little contrarian with him in a lineup or two. I won't be playing any Clint Capella, and I have a feeling that's going to bite me, especially if Embiid's limited. There's just a couple centers on this slate that I do want to play. And I just don't see myself having the 7,700 for Capella when there's a couple of these Sixer guys on the other side of the ball that are just a little bit more than 8K. Yes, different positions, but I can make it work. I got guys I like at every position. So I just don't see myself going to the two top dogs. If I looked anywhere, it would probably be Hunter at 4,400. Again, he's questionable. I expect him to play. He was questionable going into Game 5, and he still played 34 minutes. They need him. They're going to need his size and his length on defense. He's probably going to be the guy that's tasked with chasing Ben Simmons around all day. Minutes equal money. That's it. 30-plus minutes. He put up a dud on that end of May game against New York where he got 8.5 DK points. Pretty sure I recommended him that night, and that went well for me. But the two previous games, we're looking at both games, 32-plus minutes, at least 22 DK points, and then in that last game, another 24 DK points. So at 4,400, you're getting about 5x from that, and I don't hate it. That's probably it. And then, a stab at Gallinari. I can see Gallinari being extremely useful in this series. I expect him to probably play closer to 24 to 26 minutes in this series. And at 4,100, I think he makes for a rock-solid value play. But that's pretty much what I'm looking at over here on this Hawks. There are just some ancillary pieces, and that will kind of gauge you and guide you, I guess, probably in the direction of where I'm going to go with my lineup. But on the Philly side of the ball, I definitely have a little bit more interest over here. Embiid coming in at 9.4. I don't think we're playing him regardless. He would be contrarian if he does play. You touched on it. If he plays, I can't expect him to see a full workload. There's just no way. And with him limited or potentially ruled out, if he's ruled out, we know where to go. It's Ben Simmons. It's Tobias Harris. It's Seth Curry. You can get some stabs at Dwight Howard. Like you said, he might not start. I expect him most likely to start in this one against the Hawks. It's a little bit different of a scenario. I don't think they'll get away with Ben Simmons playing point guard or point center with Clint Capella on the other side of the ball. They were doing that against the Wizards, who have like Daniel Gafford, Robin Lopez, a bunch of guys who are not good. Excuse me. Gafford is actually pretty solid, but nothing to scare people away where they can actually control the tempo and play Ben Simmons at point center. So I'll be looking at those 3-4 guys again. And if Embiid happens to be ruled out, I think that opens up some value off the bench for a guy like Maxey and Thibault. Both those guys would probably see a few extra minutes. But for the most part, I love Ben Simmons. I'm going to be playing a boatload of Ben Simmons in this matchup. I like me some Tobias Harris. I just don't love that $8,500 price tag because now we're starting to creep towards Paul George territory. And I love me some Seth Curry and Dwight Howard as well. So a lot of guys to like on this side of the ball. I'm going to be loading up, and then we'll get to that next game. And you'll see the side I'm loading up on there as well. But who are you looking at over here for Philly?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as the Ben Simmons-Tobias Harris combination is concerned. Obviously, Tobias, who's just been absolutely balling out, is now getting to what would probably be fair value for him. So even though he probably will get close to hitting value on this, has been about between 45 to 47 for the vast majority of the games in the first round. And especially if Embiid's out, he's going to be getting that 17 to 20 shot buffet. So it's still a nice spot to be able to get him. But as you said, those ancillary pieces, Dwight Howard is one I'm looking at. Tyrese Maxey is another one that I've found that I already have in a number of lineups just because I expect him to play a good amount of minutes. His minute total in general has been rising up as the series has gone on. And as much as Philly has their starters that have been absolutely on fire, kind of that bench unit still has a couple of question marks for it. However, Maxey kind of becomes the one guy that you can see Doc Rivers starting to trust a lot more. He's getting more shots. He likes him as that backup point guard option. So at 3,900, I see him as a good spot to take a stab.
Yeah, Doc Rivers was a believer in Maxey early on in the season when I think it was really early on in the season. He fell in the draft basically because people were concerned about his shooting. And Doc Rivers came out and said early in the year, like, I don't know what people saw. This kid can shoot. This kid is good. He should not have fell that far in the draft. So I like me some Maxey. I like him going forward. I think he's actually going to be a very serviceable role player in the NBA. Definitely can see him as a nice sixth man type of guy. But we'll move on to the next game. Dallas Mavericks traveling to LA, taking on the Clippers. For the Mavs, Luka's probable. Maxey's probable. JJ Redick's out. For the Clippers, Serge Ibaka is doubtful. 215 game total. Clippers favored by 5.5. They must not know who Luka Doncic is in Vegas, but we'll pass it over to you, man. Why don't you start with the Mavericks?
Yeah, well, first off, we'll have to see if history can truly be made. Every single road team winning so far in this series. So we're really going to be hoping that Luka can be the one to make sure that trend goes all the way for the 7. And of course, there's not much to say as far as Luka Doncic himself is concerned. 11-1, but you know what he's going to drop every single game. Dallas just absolutely requires him to do everything on the floor. If in many ways you're seeing that they're almost adverse to doing any sort of offense on their own if it's not initiated by Luka. Even in the 2 games that he has been, as you say, hampered by his injury, his cervical strain, still had 77 and 64 DK points in both of those. So it's just one of those where it kind of depends on if you believe in enough of the value picks otherwise to kind of go around him, Luka is likely going to give you value for his price, regardless of what it is. But it really all comes down to what you think those mid-tier guys are going to do. So if it's the John Collins of the world, the DeAndre Hunters, all those guys, Seth Curry, if they're going to be able to do well for them, then perhaps you do want to start off your lineup with Luka Doncic and get it all going. Because as far as the rest of the pieces are concerned, they've kind of been hot and cold. Both Finney Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., both of those guys who've been important for the Mavericks rotation, and of course their minutes total is always going to be sky high. But in Tim Hardaway's world, he's had 2 good games now as far as DK points are concerned. His shooting itself has kind of been hot and cold as well. So if he can have another good shooting night, which they'll need, he'll probably be able to get that 6,400 value. But again, it's a bit of a dart throw as far as that's concerned. The other solid play that's there for the Dallas Mavericks is always Finney Smith. At 5,000, he's always there and thereabouts. Has had 29 DK points in the last 2 games there. He's always going to be that main kind of wing defender for them. Will play all the minutes that he can possibly get. And if he can hit anywhere between 2 to 3 threes, which he has been for the last couple of games, the rebounds and the stocks usually get him up to value. So those are 3 spots I'm looking at. And the other one, which I've been calling for a while, for Rick Carlisle to play him more minutes to start him, was Boban Marjanovic, who finally got his opportunity in the last 2 games now to really be starting. But I feel like they'll be looking to play him a couple more minutes this last game. I mean, he was called out a couple of times in this last game over there where Dallas kind of gave it away in the 4th. Marjanovic was nowhere to be seen. He was the best plus-minus in the beginning for them. And at 3,700, a guy who's always been a permanent monster, about 1.3 DK points a minute in the regular season, does about the same in the playoffs. If he can find himself to 20 minutes, he's going to absolutely smash that 3,700. And I think I'll have him in a number of lineups today.
Yeah, listen, you don't have to do much to talk me down to Bobby, man. I like to be the biggest Boban stan that there is. And the fact that we have Boban in a playable scenario and on the same day that we have Tobias Harris in a playable scenario and Luka Doncic in a playable scenario, I feel like there's just a friendship stack that's involved there. You just get all 3 of these guys involved. They're hilarious on Twitter. If you guys don't know anything that's going on behind the scenes, Tobias Harris and Boban are best friends. Like literal best friends. It's absolutely comical and hilarious. These guys have a great relationship. And Tobias Harris gets jealous anytime Boban takes any photos with Luka or calls each other friends. And he'll start tweeting about it on Twitter saying how messed up it is. So I just love them. I love those guys. I love that relationship. But I'm with you, Boban, 3,700. Hopefully he draws that start again. Like you said, this has been a chess match of a series. There's been so many adjustments. Both these coaches have been having to make these adjustments. So this was one that Dallas made, and it did start their game off well for them. They needed extra size. They were running more of a zone in the last one. So if they decide that they want to go with that zone again, keep that length down low with Boban and Kristaps and try to just take away a little bit of the stuff that's going on around the basket. And it was successful. The real struggle that the Mavericks faced is when they had to take Luka out to give him a breather, and didn't play Boban too much in the 4th. But it was really that Luka breather that caused them that game, and there's nothing you can do about that. Obviously, when you look at Luka, he's probably not the most athletic NBA player, and if this dude gets into shape, which I'm sure it's going to happen over the next few years, he's going to come back ripped like Giannis one year or something like that. That's the only thing that's holding Luka back right now. It's a little bit of the free throw shooting and a little cardio. If this guy was able to play 44, we'd be all set. But that's probably it, man. I love Luka. I just don't see myself going to him too much. Like you said, he's contrarian. I'll probably have a couple stacks on him. I'm expecting to be underweight, but I'm still going to have ownership on him. If he's 40% owned on the slate, I'll probably be around 20 to 25. I'll have some shares. I'm just not going to go overboard. Outside of that, it's really just Boban for me. All these other ancillary pieces, you need them just to be white hot. You need Hardaway Jr. to be shooting phenomenally from three-point land. We saw that in the first 3 games in the series. He's kind of been struggling over the last 2. Finney Smith, very similar story. He's going to get all the minutes, just not a high point per minute guy. Wouldn't mind him at 5K, but that 5K price tag is a hard place to land when you still have guys like Seth Curry. So he'd probably be a little bit more contrarian for me as well. But on the Clippers side of the ball, man, this is where my action is going to be. And I hate saying that as a Mavs fan, but there you go. You got it. I'm never a homer when it comes to DFS. I don't do that. Or fantasy in general. I try my best. But Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, absolutely love both these guys. I'm going to be looking to have one of these 2 guys in every single lineup. I'm just trying to mix and match and try to find the best combination. Going back to the well with Marcus Morris Sr. doesn't bother me one bit either. Shot 1 to 10 in that last one. Terrible shooting night, but back-to-back games of 42 minutes. This dude's going to have to play every single minute that he could. That's what we're looking for in elimination games. The guys who are not coming off the floor, give me some of that. I will definitely take some Morris. And then looking at some of these ancillary options, I probably won't go to any of the guards between, Rondo, Reggie Jackson. Jackson coming off of a monster game. I just don't feel like chasing that. Anytime I chase Reggie Jackson, just doesn't end very well to me. And I think you could take a stab at Nick Batum. I prefer Marcus Morris, but if Batum's going to be playing mid 30 minutes, he is definitely in play. I had a few big defensive plays in that last game too. And we also got to learn a little bit about Nick Batum because of the broadcast. So shout out to the broadcast that talked about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Nick Batum backstory, and you will. Stuff that you learn about some NBA players that you might not have ever known. But I'll pass it over to you. Clippers, who are you looking at?
Yeah, and look, the two-headed monster is always going to be where it starts and ends with regards to the Clippers. I mean, Kawhi has been absolutely otherworldly, and as much as it hurts me as a Raptors fan to see him doing this elsewhere, that 45-point performance in the last one was absolutely just exactly what you get from Kawhi in any sort of kind of win-or-go-home scenario. So it was absolutely awesome to watch, and I totally expect him to go ahead and pull that up again. That being said, as far as the guards are concerned, I'm a little less concerned about going with Reggie Jackson today, just because for whatever reason, I don't know how they're getting it set. Maybe it's because Rondo looked at Kawhi the wrong way after he took that airball 3 in the previous game, but he just hasn't been playing the kind of minutes you would have expected. I mean, he was obviously a huge piece for what the Lakers did the year prior. Playoff Rondo has always been a thing, but his minutes total just keeps dropping. His shot volume has always been kind of off and on, but Reggie Jackson has clearly found himself in a good place with Ty Lue, really trusting him. He's got that minutes total up into the 30s pretty much every single game. Only one was at 29, and the other one was like first game of the series. But beyond that, despite his price tag rising consistently, he's always hitting that 26, 27 floor. And then, as you said, he had that opportunity to go ahead and just go off last game with 25, 9, and 4 to get him 44 DK points. So, it's one of those where we talked about Seth Curry as your Philly guy in the other one. That's probably going to be where I lean more of. But Reggie Jackson is probably going to be a spot that I get at least a couple of shares in, just because I've liked how involved he's been with the offense. After the Kawhi Paul George situation, you're finding that Reggie is becoming more of that third option for them. They like him shooting. His three-point shooting has been better, which has kind of been plaguing him throughout his career. So if he can keep doing that, and at the shot volume he is, he'll likely crush that value. But as far as Kawhi and Paul George go, that's 100% where I'm starting and finishing with these guys. Probably going to have them, as you said, in 60 to 70% of my lineups from what I've seen early on in the day.
Yeah, it's just going to be hard to ignore both these guys. When you're talking about the usage, you're talking about the minutes, you're talking about the volume, you're talking about the situation, Game 7, everything else that comes with it. It's just hard. Like, you have to get a little bit more amped up for spend up on these guys with this usage total in a Game 7 as opposed to a Game 1. And when you look at the matchup in that Game 1, Philly-Atlanta, it's a tough matchup for a lot of those Atlanta guys that were spending up on it. We can manage to get the Philly guys and these Clipper guys. So that's kind of been the method of the madness on my game script. Just at the start, still pretty early. We're going to mess around with it a little bit. But we got some player tier action, my friend. We're going to break down our 3 favorite players from each tier, expensive, middle, value. I'll let you start. I'm a gentleman. Give me your expensive player.
Yeah. And just as we spoke about, a guy who always is going off in win-or-go-home scenarios, has been the absolute cog that runs this Clippers team, has kept them alive. Kawhi Leonard is absolutely going to be my favorite top pick today. At 9,900, he's still, in my mind, priced less than he otherwise should be, given what he's been doing. The ultimate inconsistency, hasn't hit a single game except for the one blowout in which he was below 55. So for a guy that's still sitting sub 10K, he's just an absolute shoo-in for me.
Oh, sorry. Got a little technical difficulty. I don't think I can argue that Kawhi Leonard play. I will have some shares of him too. I'll go a different direction. I'll go a little cheaper because I was going to go just Paul George and just make my life easy. We'll go with Ben Simmons, though. 8,300. I absolutely love Ben Simmons in this matchup. He's my favorite point guard play on the slate. If he's playing center, only benefits him more. We'll probably have a better chance of triple-doubling. We know that the defense, Atlanta just doesn't have the guy. It's going to be DeAndre Hunter. The guy with knee soreness is going to be tasked with chasing him around all day. And he's going to be able to just sit there and spend a lot of his time defensively on Trae Young. Should be a high turnover game is what I imagine. A lot of transition dunks, a lot of transition points. So we should see Ben Simmons probably, I'm imagining, with a 2 steal, 1 block type of game. Extra 6 points right there would be extremely useful when you're just talking about his overall stat line if he's chipping in assists and rebounds as well. So sign me up. Ben Simmons, 8,300. We'll go to the mid-tier. What do you got?
Yeah, and this is just one of those where I've been racking my brain between the two. You spoke about Reggie Jackson, spoke about Seth Curry. In both of those scenarios, I'll probably end up leaning towards the Seth Curry side of things because for me, it was always a combination of the minutes total that he's getting as well as his role. I mean, he's got his role absolutely set now, hasn't played less than 27 minutes throughout the playoffs so far, likely going to be closer to 30. And he's hitting anywhere between 12 to 15 shots a game, especially if Embiid is out. So for an Atlanta Hawks team, which hasn't been great at defending guards in general, have been actually one of the worst in the league on that. I think Seth Curry is a great spot to be able to go off. His lack of peripheral stats is something that you always want to keep track of, but if he's going to be kind of dealing with the kind of offensive load that I expect him to have, especially with Embiid out, I don't see him having any trouble hitting that 5,100. So great spot in the mid to be able to go ahead and grab him.
Love it. That's where I was going to go. So now I will switch it up and go to the other guy that we just talked about, and that will be Marcus Morris Sr. at 4,900. I just love the minutes total. Back-to-back 42 minutes game, elimination game. This dude's going to be playing 40+, and at 4,900, I just like the minutes total. Not the highest usage, but play makes sense. For some value, I have a feeling I know where you're going to go on this one, and I'll let you take the thunder, man. Run with it. Who are you going with?
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to be 3 for 3 on grabbing him, but yeah, Bobby to complement Toby is going to be my guy. Boban Marjanovic, 3,700. It's just one of those scenarios where it just looks like, one, in these elimination games, it's always the unlikeliest of heroes to be able to go ahead and be the guy to lead you over the top. And in general, it just makes sense. You know, the fantasy value's there, the minutes are starting to come around, and frankly, the matchup is there for him to be able to exploit and get a couple of quick buckets, a couple of putbacks. So all of those will get him to hopefully somewhere close to that double-double, get you that little bonus DK points over there as well. But I absolutely expect to have a decent amount of Boban today, and for 3,700, smash that button.
All right. I'm going to go contrarian here. I'm going to give the nice little tournament play. I wouldn't do it in cash just because I think DeAndre Hunter is more of the cash option around this price tag. I'll go with Danilo Gallinari at 4,100. I do like this matchup. I think Gallinari is going to have to be more involved in this matchup as opposed to the other one. It'll be a little bit of a slower pace than going against the Wizards as well, which will bode well for him. And 4,100 is just a great price tag. So he didn't play big minutes in that last one, but if we look at the previous 4 games prior to that, against the first 4 games of that Knicks series, he was in the mid-20s, touched 30 in one of those. I expect that to get more like the norm. They're going to need him in this one, especially if we see that they do some Ben Simmons at center lineups. We might end up seeing this Hawks team go a little smaller, and if that's the case, you'd probably see John Collins maybe draw the start at center. And they'll still start Capella, but we'll see some run with John Collins at center. And in those situations, we'll probably either see Hunter at the 3 or the 4, or Gallinari at the 3 or the 4 in the other spot. So I'll play some Gallo as a contrarian play, 4,100. Sign me up. I'll have some ownership on him. And that is it, my friend. That rounds us out. That brings us home. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for putting up with me. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. I got to give Harris a lot of credit, too, because he's been doing it the past couple weeks, and kudos to you, Harris. I'm a challenging guy. But you're always on board, man. You're always there. Teed up, coming with some great plays. Always prepared. Love having you on the show, man. So thank you again for joining me. If you guys have a second and you want to give us a follow on Twitter, you can find me at Mike Apotria. That is MikeApotria. Harris, let the good people know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Same place on Twitter. You can find me at HAK_Devil, DEVIL. Where you can catch me with all of my latest picks on there. Always engaged on Twitter. You can go ahead and get in contact with me, and I will always get back to you. So, if you find Mike is a bit busy and you think something I say has a little bit of value, definitely get in touch with me. I'll see what I can offer and see what I can do to help you out.
Oh, I'd now be the stamp of approval there. There's definitely some value that Harris can add. Yeah, that's a great point. If you have been shooting some messages towards me, whether it's DM or tweets, and you just don't see me getting to them, just tag them. Tag Harris in there. Say the same question. Tag us both, and then you'll get an answer. Tag Santino in there. You'll see a lot of people do that. They just grab half the hoop ball team, throw them all in one tweet, and whoever answers, and you get a little group think effort where you get to the 4 or 5 responses too. So. Great point, man. I really do appreciate it. And again, I can't thank everybody over here at Hoop Ball and our listeners enough for everything that they've done to try to make my transition a little easier. I can't thank them enough. I have a great team over here, a great group of guys that I work with, including yourself, Harris. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal all season long. And as we're closing down this season, I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good going into the next one. I like the team that we have. I'm really excited about it, but we still got some basketball to get through before we start talking about next season. But I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody over here and say thank you. And then again, thank you all for listening and tuning into us. So we'll be back. I will be on again tonight. I'll be talking about that Monday slate. Really looking forward to it. But that is all we have for you guys. Let's go out there. Let's crush some GPPs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Thomas Hearns. Legends, whose four-way rivalry defined one of the greatest eras in boxing history. Relive their decade of dominance in a new Showtime sports documentary, The Kings, a 4-part series now streaming on Showtime.